Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everyone and welcome along to round number 9 of the AOR Hype. Season 19 PCF 1 League. We are here at the glorious Hockenheim ring circuit, which plays host to the German Grand Prix, the final one on the calendar for the foreseeable future, meaning it is the final time it'll appear as an AOR race. So let's do as best a job as possible of bringing you one of the best Grand Prix of this season, like it did back in 2019. A track written in the history books for having two drastically different layouts. The one we race on today has remained practically unchanged since it got redesigned. As you can see on the screen there, the 2002 Grand Prix moving the long straights that headed deep into the forest and replacing it with more of a modern taste on things, with a mixture of high speed and low speed corners, but it's still Hockenheim at heart, and whatever layout you prefer, the Grand Prix has never failed to deliver. And it didn't surprise me that when F1 announced that Germany won't feature on the F1 calendar in 2020, it was met with a resounding disappointment from fans and drivers alike. The track is very flowing, it has multiple opportunities to overtake, making it fun to race, watch, or in my case, commentate. The track is 4.57 kilometers long, with 17 turns, 10 to the right and 7 to the left, with 3 DRS zones down the 3 prominent straights. The one that overtakes happen here because they all intertwine into one really long section of overtaking opportunities, so look forward to that. The strategy for this race is quite unpredictable compared to most. Germany wields the shortest pit lane, so two-stop strategies can and do work here, but only if the driver feels the risk of doing so. My name is James Costello and I'll be your only commentator for tonight's Grand Prix. Unfortunately, Jens wasn't able to make it due to unseen circumstances, so I'm always here to commentate. Well, I'll say that I wasn't here last week, but Jens did a fantastic job last week. Hopefully, I'll do equally the same good job. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the meaty greety of things and get going with, if my OBS wants to work, get going. Actually, I'll turn that down a little bit there. Get going with the qualifying. As you can see, we only have 12 drivers for today's Grand Prix, which isn't as much as we usually hope for, but it is getting to the latter stages of the season, so attendance rates usually drop, but still 12 drivers, that isn't damping any of my spirits, because this track always plays host to some magnificent Grand Prix, and you can see all the drivers now going out onto their qualifying laps. Let's see what the drivers are wielding tyre-wise. As we can see, yeah, everyone's on the hards, which doesn't really surprise me. So obviously we're hard to medium in qualifying and then medium to hard in the race. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some sort of two-stop strategy. The softs can last here, although it isn't very optimal. And you know, these drivers, if they find a strategy they like, you bet your bottom dollar they're not going to change it, and if they go for the fastest strategy, that's the only chance of them winning the Grand Prix. So listen to here, this is Cardinov on his flying lap. Already a few banker lap times in. Presnator, Infamous and Matthias all in the 1:11.9s. Presnator leading those three. Here comes Cardinov round the final 2 corners. Very difficult to get right, very flowing the final sector of this track. It's probably my favourite out of the 3. Really technical, the tightest part of the circuit down at the Sachs curve there. Really flowing if you nail that. Unfortunately, I'm not good at this game, so unfortunately I'm not able to, but these drivers definitely can. Zakharov only a 12.2 for the racing point. Who else is on a lap? Looks like Kuipers is coming to the end of his, and he takes provisional pole with a 1:11.674 for Hypers. Last season didn't even make the Grand Prix, made qualifying but completely missed the Grand Prix. Looking for different fortunes this time around, and well, good start there. 1:11.6, 2.5 tenths clear of Jim Roy, who takes P2 at this moment. The fact that some drivers like Speed Bari, Crow, Bono, who else am I forgetting? Simon. The fact that these guys aren't here means that other drivers can potentially have a better stab at taking the win. You can see obviously Hypers hasn't had the best fortune this season, but we know how quick he can be. Back in season 18, now takes a more familiar P1 at the moment. Well, obviously he hasn't seen too much of this season. Speaking of Speed Barring, he could win the championship today, but it's very unlikely considering he isn't here. Infamous is 82 points behind, which means that if he scores 7 points, he elongates the championship battle to Canada in 2 weeks' time. If he doesn't score more than 7 points, Speedbori is the champion without even doing anything. So it's like a Leicester City situation in 2016, waiting on his rival to see what Infamous can conjure up. But we know Infamous is really quick, so it really would surprise me if Infamous can't take P6, but it's what he's going to need at least to take the championship battle. Well, we say battle, it's not really much of a battle, is it? 82 points with 4 races to go. It's quite substantial how Svivari is. He's incredible at this, and well, who can fault him really? I mean, he's took advantage of every single situation he's got. He's done exactly what Yana did this time last season, and thoroughly deserves that P1 in the championship, and soon to be championship itself, unless any miracles happen. I don't really know why he isn't here today. I think he was in the virtual GP or the ACE Sports Edition, which wouldn't surprise how he isn't here today. Obviously Bonner competing in that as well, that's why he's not here today, as is Crow, and obviously unfortunately Michael has left, which really doesn't surprise me considering the esports commitments are top tier for these drivers. They get paid to do it. There's no salary in AOR unfortunately, but we still have a decent amount of drivers today, and the fact that none of them really, barring Hypers and Infamous and Predator, have seen much success this season, it's good because we can finally see them in the flesh and properly utilise them and see how they get on. Really, we can give them much more of a spotlight because they're not going to be sat around in P8, P9, P10 battling away for the lower points paying positions. I say that like it's a bad thing. It's definitely not. I would give limbs to be as quick as these guys. They are exceptionally quick at what they do, and any points in the top split of AOR is fantastic in PC, Xbox or PS4, so they've got a big opportunity now to take a lot of points for their championship. I should mention the championship, as I get the standings up right about now. It's very close, even at the top it's not as close, but with P2 it is mighty tight. I think there's only about 15 points separating 2nd and 6th or something. Infamous obviously leads that train, but it is definitely right within the balance to see who can get P2 in the championship. Also, I'm very sorry for the menu popping up. There's literally nothing I could do. This is what I would usually do, but obviously I'm not the one. I'm not the one streaming. Unfortunately, being a one-handed job. Let me just get this results and standing screen right about now. So yeah, Infamous is in 2nd with 78 points. Then comes Simon with 73, Crow with 70, Bono with 68, and Predator with 67. So it's 2nd to 6th, separated by 11 points, which with 4 races to go, Personally, could easily get into third, or maybe even take second, so that's a battle we're going to have to look forward to. Hopefully Crow and Bonner can make a few more Grand Prix, and Simon as well. And then behind that, Hypers is pretty much in no man's land in P7, Cardinov P8, ahead of Camille, who's scored in every round he's participated in, bar the first one. Failer in 10th, he's picked up some mighty good form in the latter stage of the season, P8 and 2 P5s in a row. If he can do that again, build momentum up, he can easily snatch himself out. Hypers maybe or Cardinov, or especially Camille. But great recovery drive from Failer, who only had 4 points to his name before round 6. Or round 7 I should say, yeah, round 6. Yeah, fantastic job from him. Then Leopard in 11th, Matthias lower points with Leopard. Jim Roy 13th. Hasn't had the same success he used to have on the PS4 tier, but hopefully his luck will change tonight. Zed Owens in P14, Alvaro in 15th, Brownie 16th, Photon 17th. I'm surprised Photon's picked up as little points as he has, because he was so consistent last season. Heck, I think he finished nearly, in P5 or P6 last season. Has only got 5 points to his name. That just shows how maybe more competitive this tier is. As now there goes Camille, as I was mentioning him in the championship, down in P9, takes provisional pole at the moment, 11.632, very close between the two poles of obviously Camille and Hypers, and then obviously Infamous in the other Red Bull. So Red Bull looking mighty strong at the moment as we approach the last stage of this qualifying session. Only 7 minutes to go. And Jan Failer out. Is he out? He's out on the softs. Right, that's interesting. Or is he actually has? Oh, he set a lap time on the softs. It was a 20. So obviously that was a lap that didn't work out for him. But he wanted to get a banker lap time on the board. He looks pretty adamant on setting his personal best on the soft tyres, which means that, well, he needs to get a pole. Without a shadow of a doubt, there's literally no other alternative for him in this qualifying session. The softs really do not last that long compared to the mediums or hards, and he'll just get swallowed up. He probably will get swallowed up on those softs at the early stages of the Grand Prix, but he needs to be as high up as possible, and being in around P5, P6 in the mid-tier, where everything really happens in the first lap of the race, where carnage is more likely to happen. He definitely doesn't want to see himself in that position. P1 is definitely where he needs to be, because that's where carnage is least likely to happen, and carnage can happen in Germany. We've seen it time and time again. Turn 1 is definitely an action zone, you could call it, where the primary accidents can happen. We've seen Schumacher taken out. We see the car, I can't remember, my F1 knowledge is absolutely abysmal, but the car upside down into turn 1, as recent as Massa in 2014 in Magnussen. And of course Bottas crashing out in the real life race in 2019, but lap 1 especially is definitely something to look out for. It's so tight into turn 1. Two cars is definitely the limit with that. 3 wide, and you're definitely going to see us have an accident. With even how good these guys are at racing, really, accidents can and do happen. As we now go on board with Hypers. Pretty much this is the stage where nothing really happens. It's just the waiting game, really, as we wait for everyone to get out for their final laps. As these Hypers coming into the pits, as does Brownie, and one of the Toro Rossos is on their way out, but on the one in, I should say. The other one's out of Kruzix, and a Red Bull of Camille are out. What tyres are they on? Are they on the mediums? Yes, they are. So that gives me, well, that confirms it that, excuse me, these drivers want to start on the mediums, which is probably the best option for them, seeing as how they last much longer than the softs and give, well, not as slow as you've seen in the intro. You can definitely do a very good job if the drivers manage these tyres well. And then obviously we'll see when the hard tyres come into play later on in the Grand Prix. But I'm still wondering if Failer's put the mediums on in his pits. Let's see if anyone's going to gamble with those soft tyres. It'd be interesting to see, because we'll take a good look at them and see, well, they should get pole. I mean, this field is so close. I mean, it's what 7/10 thereabout between P1 and P11 of Leopard. Obviously the times will start to tumble on now with the mediums, and we should be seeing a lot closer times, maybe even more 4/10 to bring the entire grid, but obviously Feather is a massive outlier. The fact that he has obviously not set a competitive lap time as of yet. Let's see how Camille does. Is that how he's giving him slipstream? Whether that's intentional or not, that's definitely boosting Camille, certainly. Definitely gaining much more top. Yeah, that is that obviously might have been discussed beforehand, but that was tactical from Hypers to give his compatriot slipstream. But obviously the fact that they're P1 and P2, is that just like them? I mean, they're not even in a team, not even esports related. They're literally just friends who just want to help each other, because at the end of the day this is obviously competitive, but obviously not as competitive as maybe, well, obviously the esports. That's the most competitive of all. You will never see that in esports. It'd just be teammates doing that with one another. But let's see how that affects Camino. You'd assume he will obviously increase his advantage on pole position, but by how much? As he comes out of the final corner up towards the line with DRS open, it's a 10.897, so around about 8/10, and you'd assume that he'd return the favour to Hypers as he now backs up. And there is Hypers. He's just come out of turn 1, and there is Camille up in the distance, ready to return the favour. So these guys, maybe the slipstream, they want to finish 1-2 in this qualifying session, and by giving each other slipstream, that will definitely aid their help. But there are others outside. Look at the Mercedes up in front. They're helping each other massively. There's a Kruzik's in between, getting out of the way on his outlap. But yeah, 2 Williams guys. Who's on the run? Looks like Matthias is the one on a run. So he's further up the road compared to his Polish compatriot. There's quite a lot of Polish drivers in this league, isn't it? Obviously Matthias, Hypers and Camille. Might be a few more. Yeah, nice to see obviously these compatriots giving each other the help they need. Obviously Mercedes, obviously their home Grand Prix, although the drivers don't really care about that too much. That's more for a real life sort of crisis. But here comes Matthias round the final corner and up towards the line, wiggles out the final corner, and that wasn't the best exit, and it cost him a little bit. 11-1 for him, 11-1 for Hypers as well, so he improved back into P2. But Camille, impressively, 2/10. Yeah, 2/10 clear of Hypers. Oh, here comes Infamous though. It's a Red Bull 1-2. We haven't seen that since Mexico 2018, have we? Infamous, the Brit, taking provisional pole, and that's his final run done because there's only 50 seconds to go. Who's out there on their run? Presneder is done, I think. Yes, Presneder's... No, he's going again. Okay, that's fair enough. I won't be surprised. Cardinov, I think, is done. Cardinov is done. He can go again, though. Brownie's done. Jim Roy's still going on. Obviously, we would assume he was given slipstream back from Matthias after he gave the pole slipstream down towards turn 6 into the Sachs curve. We go now. Let's go on board them through the final sequence of corners into the left, then the right. 16. Ooh, don't go around a little bit wide. That compromises exit onto the final corner. DRS wide open for the Dutch driver, up into P3, 11 flat for him. Overtakes his teammate and Hypers. That's Kruzik's finishing his lap. Prezid, I think, is the only really one who's yet to finish his lap. No, he's done. Is he? Yeah, he is. He couldn't improve. Well, must have had his lap invalidated. He's done with qualifying. The only 2 drivers left are Andonator. Around the final corner, he comes down. He's 7.5 up on his PB, and he improves to P5. Very good lap time from him. It's just Failer, I think, who's slowed down. So he's out. He's down and out. So he's starting P12 and last, which isn't that bad of a thing, to be honest. He's only one of 2 drivers who have free choice tyre. Him and Leopard. Leopard, I think, made the optimal decision, not optical, to pit. Well, to stay in the pits and guarantee his P11. Cardinov is actually still going. He's down his time though, so I don't think we'll see an improvement. And we don't. 11.3 was 10th. down on that personal best and stays in P7. So there you have it. It's Red Bull 1-2 infamous P2 in the championship, asserting his dominance now that Speed Borry is nowhere to be seen and takes pole position. His first pole position of his AOR PC career, at least. I'm not sure how his Xbox career fared. What a lap from him, and impressively Camille P2. It's looking mighty good for the two Red Bulls at the moment, and it definitely does. And they've got quite a bit of margin between themselves and the rest of the gang. There are only two drivers who dipped into the 10s. Jim Roy 3rd, Hypers 4th, Andernator 5th, Matthias 6th, Cardinov 7th, Kruzix 8th, Brownie 9th, Presnator unfortunately in 10th, obviously set his personal best on the hards, obviously made a mistake on the mediums, which means he will start on used hards. Oh dear me, that's terrible, terrible luck there. Fibers and obviously, and obviously Leopard and Phalo have free choices tyre wear down in 11th and 12th, unless we have some rain maybe. Was it? That's very overcast, you know. You know, as me and Jens love to ramble on how the weather gods please give us rain, but you know what? I mean, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to count any chickens, but that's quite overcast to me. And we have seen time and time again how rain can impact the race in Germany. We need no introduction of it. How will it impact this race, if it comes, obviously? But obviously we'd assume that Leopard and Freyler will go on to the hards for their first stint. Obviously everyone else, bar Presjeda, are on the medium tyres. But yeah, 34 laps of this Grand Prix, I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correctly. And it should be pretty interesting, this Grand Prix, because you never know what can happen to Germany. And as I mentioned time and time again, the top tier drivers actually aren't here. So it's a chance for Infamous to potentially get his first win. He's had podiums before. Obviously a P2 in Belgium and a P2 in Australia. I had to remind myself of that because obviously I wasn't here for Australia. If you did miss Australia, Speed Borry won 4 wins in a row for Speed Borry. Wow, thankfully it's coming to an end. But I mean, that just shows how dominant he's been in this season. He's just replicated what Jarno did last season. Jarno actually back in this tier, although not here tonight, probably due to the fact he was... No, he wasn't racing. No, never mind. I thought he was racing the Virtual GP, but then I realised he was no longer with Renault. The more you know. You can definitely tell I need to strengthen up on my Virtual GP knowledge. But yeah, I think Crow was in for the Renault, and that's why he's obviously not here. But yeah, he runs through the grid. Obviously, Infamous, Camille, Jim Roy actually. He's not had the best turn of luck. After I saw his name pop up in the sign-up sheet, I was thinking this is where we'd see him up at the front, but that's just not to be. P13 in the championship, best result of P5 in the first race, and since then pretty much lackluster luck for the Mercedes driver. Hyper's obviously, he gets a bit of a wiggle there, just warming up his tyres. Hyper's in obviously P4, looking to do what he did in season 17 and get on the podium here and fight for the win. But he wants to change his fortune to win this race compared to losing it on the final lap. But yeah, what can Camille do? I know he's really quick around this circuit, but obviously Infamous, his teammate, will definitely have a lot to say about things. 12 drivers this Grand Prix, meaning we might not see as much action as we'd have hoped, but hopefully the 12 drivers at AOR show will give us a lot of action to at least keep us occupied throughout this 34 laps at an very, very overcast, foggy Hockenheim ring. And when the 5 red lights go out, we'll see how this Grand Prix unfolds. Good start from Infamous. Camille actually tries to challenge him, but no, there comes Jim Roy out of absolutely nowhere to take P2 away from Camille, but no, Camille sends it down the inside and completely shoves Jim Roy off the circuit there, and that means that Hypers can capitalise on the Mercedes misfortune through turn 1. Hypers going wheel to wheel with a Mercedes man and coming out on top, maybe? No, they go wheel to wheel now, down through Parabolica they run onto the long, swooping DRS track. Obviously, DRS not optimized just yet. Camille already going defensive. He knows that maybe adventurous dive bomb from one of the two drivers behind him. Hypers and Jim Roy still going wheel to wheel. Out of turn 6, who will emerge victorious out of this battle as Infamous surging off into the distance, completely left everyone in his wake. Jim Roy has the inside line through turn 7 and 8, and bit of contact between the top two of them. I think there's a bit of lag involved as well. Hypers, oh dear me. Well, if you Hypers' luck has just been summed up in one scene there. Wow. Wow, just unbelievable. How bad can your luck get? That wasn't even his fault. That was complete misfortune there with the lag and the desync. And thankfully for him, he's not out of it just yet. No damage should have been occupied. He just spun round. His tyres would have seen a little bit of damage, but you know, he's definitely still within in this Grand Prix as Hypers. But wow, that's just unbelievable. I mean, he got shoved out wide by Jim Roy. Probably payback for when Hyper did it to him. No, that was Camille actually. He did it in turn 1. Maybe Hyper did something similar to that out of turn 6. He went wheel to wheel for quite a long time there. But we completely missed the fact that Infamous is over a second clear of his teammate. Fantastic start from him. Obviously Camille busy defending against Jim Roy and Hypers. Maybe playing the team game there, making sure Infamous can get a comfortable lead. So they obviously... Camille would obviously want a Red Bull 1-2 for the team's sake. Maybe he wants to win this Grand Prix. If he wants to, he has to get past his teammate. And obviously Infamous, we know how quick he is. As I'll pull up this for you. We know how quick he is throughout this season. He could easily just do a speed bar and just surge off into the distance and just win this Grand Prix easy peasy, low and swayzy. But you know, I'm sure Camille will have other things to say about that. Whether he will challenge him or whether just keep him, you know, closely occupied. That's Matthias going exceedingly wide at the final corner. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy with that, wasn't there? With the regards to, you know, in the real life qualifying and everything like that. As actually is being passed by Kruzix there, is Matthias there. So obviously that he obviously having a bit of trouble on the first opening. Is that wing damage for the Mercedes driver? Very hard to tell from that angle. Oh yeah, it is. It's very clear on the left-hand end plate there. He's trying to get past Kruzix. He has got past Kruzix. Karnov's trying as well. He gets past Kruzix. Karnov hanging on in there. Try to get past Kruzix. Can't get past Kruzix. I'm saying can't get Kruzix. Ugh, I'm saying too much. Matthias, obviously with this wing damage, very costly in this circuit. Well, I say very costly. It's not really a street circuit, is it? There are a lot of winding corners and a lot of swooping left-right turns. I mean, it can affect him, definitely affect him into this section, but I mean, he's holding up a tray. You can see how far away Andernator is ahead of him, so you can clearly tell how much of a difference his wing damage is doing. But the fact that he's keeping all these drivers at bay is mighty impressive, I must say. But obviously the drivers behind, Kruzix, Karnov, Brownie, Presida, Jim Roy. Hyper's actually made it up to P11, so his recovery drive is already on his way. But obviously, and thankfully for him, well, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't really know it. I don't know whether I'd rather be in this situation for Hypers where every driver is spaced out, so it's easy passes, or whether he's stuck in a train, which is obviously led by Matthias, now led by Kruzix, who takes that position back from Andernator. Or Matthias should say. Karnov tries to go around the outside. Brownie and Presida makes a move around the outside and gets past Brownie. Great move there. Obviously on the hard tyres is the Slovakian making progress. There goes Hypers. He is livid with it, with that, or whatever happened at on that one. He's seeking a vengeance. He is seeking revenge on whatever misfortune tampered with him, and he's trying to get past Brownie, but into the stadium section there is no chance round the outside of turn 11 there, I should say. There is absolutely, it's single file throughout here, unfortunately for you, mate. No chance of getting past unless you are a mad lad. That's Camille now sat to fast lap of the Grand Prix, and you can see I should go back to the top two, really, shouldn't I? Because well, obviously they're leading. Camille nicely tucked in behind his teammate, just a second behind, didn't get DRS on that occasion. Jim Roy though falling way behind. And not just that, here comes Andernator now with a DRS. Andernator surges past the Williams. Well, he's a Williams gym driver, but he's in the Mercedes for this Grand Prix and for this season. And Andernator, P3 is his. Wow. So obviously Jim Roy just can't keep up with the pace with the top two, and Andernator thinks that it's his chance to potentially get past them. As there's more battling in the infield, that's Jan Failer getting past Hypers, and Leopard getting past Brownie. So Brownie losing, is that 3 positions? Yeah, 3 positions lost for the Renault driver. Well, technically 4 if he can't Presator getting past him at the last lap. So Brownie down to P12 and last, but he lost a little time. Well, lost a lot of time really, 1.5 seconds between Failer and Presator. So obviously they were battling quite hard. Failer, the one who emerged victorious in that battle, but because Matthias is still holding up that train, I don't suspect that they won't be able to catch the drivers in front. As lap 6 starts now, Kruzix is now in P5, Matthias is still holding up these two. As you can see here, the engines roar down towards turn 2. Is Jim Roy going to be able to challenge back Andernator? No. Even with DRS, no chance of getting past. I don't think the same will happen for Cardinov though. Here comes Predator 3 wide. Well, nearly was. Matthias got sorted up way too easy there without the DRS for him. It was way too easy. Predator makes a double overtake there. He is really making his mark and showing us why he is P6 in the championship and looking to get that P2. But his rival in this Grand Prix, Infamous, is surging off into the distance and looks like an easy bet for a P1 or at least a P2. It's going to be one of the Red Bulls, you'd assume, but obviously fortunes can change, and we're only on lap 6 of this Grand Prix, so still a long way to go. And obviously pit stops will affect things, obviously. President being on the hards, meaning that he will be on the quicker tyres come the end. What sort of progress can he make in this Grand Prix? P6 at the moment. Maybe a podium for him. I'm not going to say anything. Commentator's curses. I've done the commentator's curse way too many times on Flap to mention, so I'm just not going to mention him throughout this Grand Prix and just hope that fortunes do well for him. But yeah, at the front, 2 Red Bulls still leading. Then it's Toro Rosso, pretty similar to the real life Grand Prix. Obviously, Max Verstappen and Danny Kvyat were obviously occupying the podium. Then Sebastian Vettel, obviously former Red Bull driver, in P2. Oh, Hypers, that was aggressive at much. Trying to get past Matthias. Well, Matthias just didn't leave him any room. Was that Matthias just closing the door too early? Was that Hypers trying to find a gap that didn't exist? Regardless, Matthias P8, Hypers P9. Still in that order. Although I don't suspect it will stay in the order for too much longer, because Matthias losing even more time now. And Hypers, we know how he gets his move done. He gets his move done early. I can sometimes. Oh, wow! Just wow! Just wow! I don't want to comment really. Yeah. I don't think Hypers. I think Hypers has still got no damage. No, he doesn't, because he didn't change his wing. But after looking at that incident, Matthias has changed his wing. That was... Oh, he does have wing damage. Oh, my word. Well, let's just say the 10th of May is definitely going down in the books as a disastrous day for Hypers. Wow, that's just... Oh. Anyone else feel sorry for Hypers? Just me. Hopefully not just me, because wowee. But on further expansion, in further expansion, I think Jan Felo also got wing damage in that incident as well. He did. So I was right for once, and I don't like a complete mug. But yeah, Felo gets wing damage as well. Did Brownie get any? No, but how is he 9 seconds behind? He must have been spun round or something. I was too busy focusing on Hypers, to be honest, in that incident, but that was very unfortunate for pretty much all 4 drivers involved. Unsurprisingly, failed a bit. should really pick up on what tyres everyone's changed on to. Hards for Hypers, hards for Matthias, and mediums for Jan. Is that mediums? Just to be sure. It is mediums. As Hypers is retired from the session. Probably realising that he actually does have wing damage. Thought he might have escaped the carnage unscathed, but not to be. Damn. Big F for Hypers. His challenge of a potential recovery drive from lap 1 has ended much sooner than he would have hoped. But yeah, it went downhill ever since he was turned round at turn 9, 10 on the first lap. So commiserations to Hypers. Hopefully next round, or well, he's got 3 rounds. He's got a week break actually, we should mention. And then we have 3 races on the bounce for the end of the season, before obviously the new F1 game comes out, and then a further season will come out. Season 20 in 2020 on the F1 2020 game. Should be exciting, obviously depending on if the game is actually decent or not. I'll have to wait and find out. I have absolutely no idea, but I am very much looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to the battle for the lead, because Camille is actually gaining. And speaking of gaining, Jim Roy looks like he's getting back at Andrea, and he has the inside line for turn 6, and has that job done very nicely and straightforward. Andrea yields very nicely indeed, and the two of them can get going once they get in their battle for P3. But yeah, as I mentioned, before Jim Roy rudely interrupted me by making a fabulous overtake, Camille's now within DRS range of his teammate, but I wonder how he's going to approach this battle. Is he going to, well, pit stops, it is round out the pit window in a few moments' time. Obviously, what will Camille, you'd assume Infamous will dart first into the pits, but will Camille try and undercut, but risk at the same time having a lap order tyres on the hards towards the end of the Grand Prix? Does he want that? Jim Roy sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, obviously showing that he is now back within the pace, now that those medium tyres have finally started to get into a decent working range. But saying that, Andrea is still right behind him, and this battle will commence once again. But Andrea back into 0 Euros mode obviously shows that he does not want to overtake anyone. But I think Karnov isn't in the same boat. He's not. He's getting past Prezeda nice and easy with the DRS. Up into P6 he goes. Prezeda won't be too worried for his case being overtaken, obviously on those harder tyres. Obviously we're going to be quicker tyres come the end of the Grand Prix. That's when he'll really come alive, you'd hope. You know, he's only what, 5 seconds behind the battle for the podium, so podium's definitely on. If for really any of the drivers, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Unless anything misfortune happens to any other driver. So we start lap 12, and it's been Red Bull 1-2 ever since the start of the Grand Prix, as Camille has actually dropped out DRS range, but I don't think that's too big of a concern really. We'll wait the pit stops and see what happens between the top two. If my mind serves me correctly, it should be the next few laps. Maybe in this lap, the mediums can probably go around 20 plus laps. I wouldn't really be too concerned. These drivers know how to manage their tyres very well indeed. The racecraft is supreme, especially Infamous as well. We've seen time and time again how he capitalises on just having fantastic racecraft. Just, you know, not getting involved in anything unnecessary, just getting on with his business. If something happens ahead or behind him, he'll just focus on his race and his race only. Phew. Solo commentary is much harder than duo commentary. I do apologise. Need to take a little bit of a breather here. Hopefully we'll have the pit stops in due course, because let's have to leave the session there. Because yeah, at the moment at the top, nothing's really happening. Oh, speak of the devil, Infamous is in. So as I mentioned, Infamous wise to pit first out of the Red Bull guys. Onto the heart he comes now. This Jim Roy now picks up penalty. Yeah, penalties. I don't even know how I went 13 laps without mentioning them. Probably because the drivers went 13 laps without picking any up. Penalties is a nightmare here. Turn 1. is probably the my English isn't working today. Is the main source of penalties. Just cutting there, going wide. They're so strict. Any sort of cut or extension is rewarded with, or punished, I should say, with a penalty. As Infamous already getting past Leopard. Late dive to the inside there. Leopard, unsurprisingly, giving him the room he deserves and respectfully gets out of his way. Otherwise, that would have done much harm to both Leopard's race and Infamous's. If we go on board with Camille, let's see if he responds to his teammate and comes in as well. You know, we did see in what do we call it? In China, excuse me, that Speed Boy made his overcut work, but can Camille do the same? He pits, Jim Roy pits, he wants to hope that he doesn't get held from the pits by Andinator, he doesn't, but that's mighty close, you know. You can just about see Andinator right behind him, that was mighty, that was too close for comfort. Out of the pits comes Camille, and unsurprisingly Infamous is way out in front, so unfortunately for Camille, the overcut didn't work, so Infamous has an even bigger lead. Compared to what he had before the two of them pitted, and a car in between as well of Leopard. But Camille should make light work of the Ferrari when he gets DRS and gets close enough to use that DRS to potentially overtake. Jim Roy and Andinator have both pitted and both emerged as they did before they pitted, unsurprisingly pitted on the exact same lap. So this is the main fight for P3 in this race, for now. Cardinal is 5 seconds behind. You don't think that he'll be able to climb up and gain 5 seconds unless these two really start battling hard. But that, you would assume, would only come towards the latter stages of the Grand Prix, and by then, I think 5 seconds would be too big a hill to climb for Cardinal. Oh, Andinator risking it all there on the exit of turn 11 there. Tokyo drifting through there. Thankfully the car responded and didn't get too dazzled by the gravel trap. We have seen drivers go off, notably the final corner and the rumble strip, the drag strip I should say. Obviously that was in the wet conditions. Obviously now I'm complete dry, but you know, there's a lot of grass on the outskirts of the circuit, a lot of gravel can triple drivers seen even here. On the exit of turn 4, Lewis Hamilton crashing out in practice in 2010, I do believe. As unsurprisingly, Camille gets past Leopard, just like his teammate did, into turn 6. And Leopard, deja vu for the Ferrari driver, passed by 2 Red Bulls in 3 laps. But in P4 at the moment, obviously on the hard compound tyres, you know, the fact that he has been overtaken by the 2 leaders isn't too concerning, because as I mentioned in the intro, this pit lane is so short. It's if memory serves me correctly, it's around about 15 or so seconds. So, you know, Presida is only 3 seconds ahead of the leader. By the time he pits, well, if he pitted now, he'd probably emerge about 15 seconds behind. But obviously he's going to go for a little while longer. Maybe a few more laps, maybe lap 18, 19. We're all around lap 16, so we're nearly halfway through this Grand Prix. And a lot of things are yet to be decided. One thing is for sure though, that Hype is unfortunately the only casualty of today's Grand Prix. Failer, obviously unfortunately, with that wing damage down in P10. Brownie next to pit, as he is way out of things. He needs a miracle and some to get any points in today's Grand Prix. Oh, one try with DNS and there's his point, but really any decent points will need a miracle from the Renault gods. Cyril Beatbull, if you have some sort of god. I'm sure Brownie would definitely appreciate it for this Grand Prix. But yeah, President leads this Grand Prix, unsurprisingly considering he was a lead runner on the hards. But yeah, we'll pit him in the next 2 laps and give the lead back to Infamous, or maybe Infamous will just get past him on the track. At the way the Red Bull's going, you'd think he might actually get past him on track. He is lightning quick on these hard tyres. He's been lightning quick throughout the entire course of the Grand Prix and this season, really, so doesn't really surprise me, to be honest. That is absolutely flying. As he's already gained, what, 1.5 seconds, so there or thereabout the gap between P1 and P2, so yeah, definitely Predator will have to be looking at his mirrors in due course, or even if he isn't right now. Infamous is right there, lad. Let's see if he comes into the pits on the end of this lap to not only give himself a breather, but also help Infamous, because I don't think, well, I think Infamous would prefer, if he had the option, to just have Predator pit rather than, yeah, rather than him having to overtake him on track and lose a few valuable tenths. Predator into the pits, the last driver we should see in the pits in this Grand Prix. You can see how short it is. As he comes into the pits onto the medium tyres, will emerge behind or ahead of Karnov. Behind, that's tedious for Predator, and behind by quite a few seconds as well. I'm out into the racetrack he comes, P8 it is. But with those fresh mediums, obviously will become P7 when Leopard darts into the pits, you'd assume, in the next lap or two. You'd assume the Predator will have a good chance of getting Karnov and Kruzix, especially considering these two are tucked in a mighty scrap, or at least they're right behind one another. But yeah, this is a battle for the podium, Jim Roy and Andone. If Predator can make his way up into territories near these guys, then he could have a good crack at things. 15 laps to go, including this one. Oh, excluding this one. As these two are actually catching up to Leopard, actually. Will Leopard dart into the pits for his first pit stop of the afternoon, or evening, should I say. It is coming up towards 9 o'clock. Yep, he does. So he'll come on to the mediums as well. Unfortunately, the rain that I thought might happen doesn't look like it's transpired into anything, because the drivers starting on the hards have now gone on to their optimal strategy rather than waiting for any potential rain. If it does come, it'll come very late into the Grand Prix, like in China. Unfortunately, I don't think, if it does come, it'll mean absolutely nothing towards the end of the Grand Prix, because, let's face it, apart from the guys out front, there's nothing really much to cover. Excuse me, but Kruzix has passed Karnov, and this is probably a delight to Predator, because he can see those guys ahead of him, and the fact that these guys are battling, losing tenths of a second each time they cross the sector split, means that Predator will gain emphatically compared to if they were just trotting along with their business on a Sunday drive, which it is. But obviously this is much more different to a Sunday drive. They are battling for pride and also for points as well. Kruzix and Karnov. Kruzix has got 1 point this entire season. That's his yellow flag somewhere. Not quite sure who it was for. Maybe for Matthias. I think he's had a bit of an incident, maybe. Not really sure what happened there, but I'll get back. Predator is getting second in like barely a lap, and he's tucked in behind these two with DRS. Unfortunately for him, he's caught them at a bit of a bad time, because he was too far behind on the DRS rate to mount a challenge on Karnov. And now into this section. If he can't get him into turn 11, his next bet is turn 1. But with the traction he has and the grip, so much more compared to Karnov. But again, you can just see when I'm going ball with him through the stadium arena section. It's a single file only. That's come from experience. It does not 2x2, side by side, does not work here, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, onto the front straight we come now, onto the start-finish straight, I should say. Yeah, as I mentioned, Cruiser's only got 1 point. That came in round 2 in Belgium. 1 solitary point. 1 points finish, really. So the fact that he's in P5 is absolutely enormous for his championship and for his confidence and for his performance overall. Will he keep that P5 though? Looks to be like it will be unlikely, because here comes Cardinov, and here comes Prezider, and here comes the 3 wide moment that I was anticipating, and here goes Prezider to get past not just 1, but 2. Unbelievable. I mean, in essence, it wasn't that dramatic, because they didn't say 3 wide for the entire straight, not even into the corner, because Cruisers with no DRS. The DRS is so powerful. Down to turn 6. Prezider was wheel to wheel with Cardinov, and Cardinov knew he was fighting a losing battle there, and Prezider up into P5 now in today's Grand Prix. 4.5 seconds he needs to gain to get into the battle for P3. So Prezider is in the hot seat for... So it's a fast lap of the Grand Prix for good measure. In the hot seat for, well, P5 at least. Barring any penalties, of which I probably should check this now. Unfortunately, you have to delve in with me, because I'm usually the one to do this whilst Jens is actually just covering the action, but I think we're safe for now. Jim Roy has a penalty, so that's not good news for him. And Andernet does as well. So if Prezider can get within... Yeah, just check he didn't have any penalties. If Prezider can get within the 3 seconds, Screw's got a penalty, but I don't think that'll mean too much in the grand scheme of things. He's in pretty much no man's land now. Whilst, obviously, the drivers in front have passed him. So if Prezider can get within the 3 seconds of Jim Roy and Andernet, he has that P3 guaranteed. Whether he'll know that, obviously he can check in the MFD. But does he want to just risk it? Does he want to try and overtake them anyway? I mean, he's gaining 3.8 seconds now, so he's gained nearly a second in the course of a lap. So I think he's a good bet to just catch up to them. Whether he wants to overtake them is a different story. Obviously, he could run the risk of pushing a bit too hard, getting penalty himself, which will cancel the penalties out in the battle for P3. But in theory, now he's only 8 tenths behind P4 at the moment, with 11 laps to go on his brand newish mediums. It lasted 5 laps, but the freshest of the top 7 was Leopard down in P8. But yeah, this is the main source of action for us, unfortunately. Due to many incidents, the field is a bit more widespread than we would have hoped, but nothing's confirmed until the second flag falls. Let's look at Infamous, who is 3 seconds ahead of his teammate now, which is just, his pace has been absolutely emphatic. It's been magnificent. Just been dominating this Grand Prix. And when I saw the grid, no Speed Bari, no Simon, no Crow, no Bono, no Michael. I thought Hypers might have been the one to take the win, but no, Infamous is just confirming the case that he is, we haven't really, he's not a massive name, but he should be, really. I mean, with his pace and AOR doesn't go by, I mean, why aren't the esports team snapping him up? I mean, probably because they've all the spots are all filled in, but if any of them needs a reserve or a backup, Infamous is a very good call. And this season is definitely good evidence. 2 podiums, soon to be a 3rd. You'd imagine every race this season he's scored points. Not too bad. The only driver to do so, alongside Speed Bari, of course, because he's won every race under the sun, apart from the 3 races he has actually won. But yeah, 3 races out of 8, he hasn't won. 5 races out of 8. Wow. That's just incredible. That's Mercedes dominance, honestly. Yeah. Looks like he's just going to add to his trophy cabinet in this Grand Prix and be the 4th different winner. Or 5th different winner, I should say, because obviously Michael did take round 1. Although it's obviously not showed on the AOR results screen because obviously he is now no longer with us, unfortunately. But with the time we had, obviously he did make his debut, Michael, in this Grand Prix last season, and it's been a great ride. Loved commentating over Michael. But yeah, I love commentating over all these guys, really. They've just been really exciting to watch. This race, an outlier, definitely. Not the most exciting Grand Prix we've ever seen in recent times, but I think the drivers have made the best of what they've got. And as I mentioned time and time again, it's not over yet. You know, Infamous could pick up a penalty, and then Camille will be 5/10 behind his teammate. Presley could pick up a penalty, and then have to overtake Jim Roy and Anderson on track to get that P3 of his. Which he is, at the moment, occupying, because he is... yeah, he's 2.7 seconds behind Jim Roy, so that'll be enough to see him take P3. But I don't think he'd want to get P3 by virtue of penalties, considering the fact you can see them two right in front of him. He's now equidistant pretty much between himself and Kardinov and himself and Andernator, so... You know, as personally, I know him probably most than I know probably most than any other driver on this grid. If he sees drivers in the front, he will want to pounce. If he's on the quickest tyre, he knows he can get past them, and he will try his utmost best to get past. Time's running out though, because there's only 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and sooner rather than later those mediums will start to give up the ghost. But saying that, so will the hards, so... You know, tyre wear might become a little bit of an issue, but not really. These drivers are good enough. They could probably last another 5 laps after the checkered flag falls, and their tyres will still be in a working range. Well, you know, whether it'll be a good working range, probably not. But yeah, they might rag the wheels off these if they're pushing. But let's be honest, Andernator's pushing, so is Predator. I mean, maybe they're pushing. I mean, you'd assume they're pushing because they're still fighting for positions that could be obtained if things go their way. But yeah, let's get off a tangent, like I love to do in a commentary. I love to do in a discussion in general, really. Yeah, so the commentary has been pretty interesting. Obviously, prefer to have Jens back, but yeah, Jens misses the most lackluster Grand Prix of the season, so hopefully he'll be back to broadcast on some much better Grand Prix than this. I can't hide anything. This race has been far from the standard we've seen on this season. This season has probably been the most entertaining to commentate on, the most entertaining races, even though the championship has been far from exciting because Speedbar has completely run away with it. The season as a whole, the races, I mean, I watched Black Australia, that was an enthralling Grand Prix. This, not so much, but you can't win them all. Unfortunately, I have to be on the wrong side of things when it comes to solo commentary. But, yeah. You get doubt where you get doubt. The gap's now just over a second between Predator and Andernator. So those mediums still working fine. Fine as a daisy, you could say, on that McLaren. Got a lot of ERS as well, to be fair. The ERS levels of the three of them are very similar, around the 40-50%. No worries regarding the ERS deployment towards the end of the Grand Prix. But at the front, I mean, it's just been I mean, they obviously, you know, we can't tell, but we know that that Infamous and Camille are completely pushing flat out. But it looks like they're just cruising towards the end, really, aren't they? Because they're not really involved in much. They know P1 and P2 is on the cards. Camille will be massive for his championship boost. P2 will put him, well, 1 point behind Hypers in P8 in the championship. Infamous, obviously by winning this Grand Prix, will take the championship to Canada in 2 weeks' time. By saying that, it'll be the gap will be 78 points, from 82 points, I should say, down to what, 57? So in theory, Speedbari can't. Well, Speedbari needs to outscore Infamous, or Infamous can't outscore. Basically, if Speedbari wants to win the championship in Canada, he needs to outscore Infamous, or if Infamous finishes ahead of him, it can't be more by 6 points gap. Else Speedbari wins the championship. So he's made it a little bit more difficult, but let's be honest, not really. It's pretty much a waiting game to see when Speedbari win the championship, and it's pretty much a waiting game to see when President will make his move for P4 in today's Grand Prix, as I've mentioned. Just to let you know, President is already in P3 because of Jim Roy's penalty and Andrea's, although he could get it on track himself if he can get past these two, and we have 400 bit laps to decide if he can. The problem is Andrea also has DRS, so President might need to catch the Toro Rosso napping, or just hope that the Toro Rosso just gets a bad exit, maybe out of the final corner here. I'm not a psychic. Andrea got a decent exit out there, probably the best of the three really. As they plough on now, onto lap 31, into turn 1 they come now. You can see how tight that turn 1 is, the apex, and just how difficult it is to get right every single lap. You know, if you go 34 laps, nailing it every single time, then you deserve a medal or something, because it's absolutely nearly near impossible. But here comes President out, got DRS as Andrea, but look, you can just see he's gaining that eeny weeny bit more, and here he goes down the inside. Whew, I had to get that right, and I had to get that right out, just as President had to dig deep and get that move done, like he did. Modern flap. P4 is yours. P3 is up next. And if you can do, well, this should be much easier because Jim Roy has no DRS. President does. So this should be much more easier for the McLaren driver. He's on P4 at the moment. Oh, that was a bit of lag there. I thought Andrea went spearing off into the distance. Andrea, of course, just like Kruzix, hasn't had the best season. Toro Rosso really have struggled this season. Andrea's only got a few points. He's only got 2 points. Wow. And those came, well, last Grand Prix. He had no points up until last Sunday, and he's about to add to his tally by 10, unless he can get past Jim Roy. But speaking of getting past Jim Roy, I think that's a task President has right now, and I think that he'll be successful in his task. Will Jim Roy defend? He will. President has the inside line. You want to go inside? Nah. I'm still going down your inside, mate. I sound like I'm in his head, don't I? But yeah, wow. I mean, it's pretty easy, to be honest. Jim Roy, you know, had to defend a little bit, just, you know, to make it a little bit more difficult for President, but, you know, those tyres are just so much more better. So much more grip, even at this last stage of the Grand Prix. And he's just pounced at every single opportunity he's done. President went to P3. And you got to say, he's thoroughly deserved it. Made that mistake in qualifying. No way in hell was that intentional to make a mistake on his medium run. Started on used hard tyres. Had to make his way up the field. Made his way up into P6 at one point on the hards, even with incidents, which is impressive in itself. He's pitting onto the mediums now, and now past 4 drivers up into his drive up into P3. You gotta say, driver of the day has to go. Well, he's definitely on the list of mentions because you know how, by the fact he's done a fantastic Grand Prix. You know, you can't just. Every driver on the podium really has had a fantastic Grand Prix. The best Grand Prix of the season, you have to admit. Although President would argue that USA was one of his finer races. But yeah, the final lap starts. It's been a very interesting Grand Prix. Interesting is a word when I don't want to say it's, you know, it's not. It hasn't been the most exciting Grand Prix, let's say. But it's definitely been full of action when it needed to be. And nothing short of dramatic as well, with all the incidents that took place. But yeah, somber note for Hypers, obviously, unfortunately for him. The only DNF in today's Grand Prix, and with that incident with Matthias, wiped out 4 drivers, including Matthias. As Jim Roy is actually trying to get past President. You know what? I mean, fair play to him. He knows that P3's lost. For certain, even if he did get past the McLaren, but obviously wants to fight until the very last moment. Can't quite do so. President just has the edge. But throughout this Grand Prix, it's been Red Bull domination. Coming back to the times before the V8, V6 hybrid era. And for the first time this season, I'll be infamous to take victory at the German Grand Prix to cross the line, weaves across it because he knows he's absolutely dominated this Grand Prix. And completely and utterly deserves his first Grand Prix of the season. Camille finishes in P2, making it the first Red Bull 1-2. As Jim Roy ran out of fuel on the line. Unbelievable. He pushed a little bit too hard. And Karma, there's nothing bad about pushing. It was unbelievable how he kept it going towards the end, but unfortunately just needed to manage his fuel a little bit better. And Andrea snuck in with that P4 across the line, takes his second points position of the season, and there you go. Yeah, what a race in the 2 Red Bulls. Just insane how quick they were. They're just so consistently quick that no one could challenge him. On another day, yeah, there might have been a few other competitors. Maybe if President had started higher up, he might have been challenging the 2 Red Bulls. Who knows what Speed Bar could have done? Would he have beaten Infamous? Maybe, but Infamous was just way too quick for anyone else. And yeah, I mean, driver of the day wise, I mean, fair play to President and to Camille, but come on. I mean, Infamous was just on another world today. Yes, there's only 12 drivers. Yes, Speedbody wasn't here. Yes, he did get help at the start. Whether it was intentional or not from Camille to try and make Infamous pull away, we'll never know. But yeah, what a Grand Prix. Infamous' first victory of the season. Catapults him even further ahead of the rest in the battle for P2. President tugging on behind though. President takes P3 after that podium. A very impressive podium from the Slovakian, and I'm sure he'll be happy with that, especially after an unconventional qualifying session didn't go to his way. But yeah, Camille in between the two of them takes his first podium of the season and confirms that he's not done with the season just yet, and he is ready to pounce on a particular, because we know how quick he is, but he just hasn't been able to, you know, merge these results into, you know, podiums. For example, his best result is a P4 back in Italy, but he finally got his podium and thoroughly deserved. But yeah, that unfortunately is going to be it for tonight's live stream. Hopefully you did enjoy. Obviously, unconventional only being me, myself, commentating this Grand Prix, but it was very, very entertaining. Learned a lot from it. Hopefully Jens will be back, though, in 2 weeks' time, because we have a break week on the next week, 17th. And then we'll be back for my AO action the week after with Canada, then Austria, and we finish the season on June the 7th, I think. Yes, June the 7th. In Interlagos for the Brazilian Grand Prix. But that is it for round 9. Hope you did enjoy. And yeah, catch you all in 2 weeks' time for some more AOR action. Until then.